And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to make a quick and easy Chinese stir fry. We're going to do beef and broccoli, and to go along with that we're going to make a quick pickled cabbage. And for dessert we're going to have just an easy, it's called Chinese cookies, but they're just an easy quick drop cookie, that no cooking other than melting the chocolate. We're going to get started on the beef. Now ideally you would want to do this the night before and then let it marinate, and I'll show you how we're going to do that in just a minute. But we're going to get started on the marinade. Now I have here a Ziploc baggie because that's how I marinate. And what I do is just turn it down one turn just to kind of keep the edges clear. And I put it in some kind of a container so that you don't leak anything. What you're going to need is some soy sauce, and I've got just some freshly ground pepper in that, some vinegar, some brown sugar, and some ginger and garlic. Now I have a paste here that's a combination of both, but if you don't have that, you can just use, ground up ginger, or not dried ginger, but ground fresh ginger and some garlic minced. But if you can find the combo, I use it all the time because I use those flavors a lot. Just kind of stir it up a little bit, and then just let that sit there for a minute. What we're going to do is slice our sirloin. Now I'm using sirloin that's just very thinly cut because it cooks quicker that way. And what I've done here is just trimmed off a little bit of the fat on a couple of pieces and stacked them up. And you want to slice them into thin, let me show you here. You see how small these are? That's what you want. You just want thin sliced sirloin. Now I'm using sirloin, but you could use flank steak if you wanted to. I love flank steak, but this was, available, and it's easy, and it's very lean. You don't want to use a fatty cut. I mean, I certainly wouldn't use like ribeye or New York strips for this. That's way too expensive and way too fatty. So what I do is I get me like 3 or 4 little pieces, stack them up like this. Now if there's a little bit of fat on there, that's okay. You don't have to trim every little tiny piece because you do want some fat in this stir fry. And what we're going to do is, as we slice this, I'm putting it down in the marinade, and we're going to let this marinade overnight is ideal, but even like an hour will make a difference in the flavor of your stir fry. Even if you can't do it but like 15 minutes, let it go 15 minutes because that really does make a difference. That's fine. Let me cut that in half and then I'll show you. This is how I do it. Now you need a sharp knife, and if your steak is much thicker than this, what makes it a little bit easier to slice is to put it in the freezer for like 30 minutes, and it'll just firm up enough to be easy to slice. And as I cut it, I'll just drop it right down in there. This is about 2 pounds of very lean sirloin. I'm going to cut out this. Anything that you see on your steak that looks like that, cut that out because that's just gristle and it won't become tender. I just stack some up on a plastic board that you can put in the dishwasher if you have one, or wash it with soap and water. I try to never put meat on my wooden boards. Now sometimes, out here on the show, I got a lot going on at one time and I'll forget sometimes. If you ever do, or if you do use your wooden boards for meat, you need to make sure that you sanitize it before you put anything else on there. I just trim out some of this stuff, and if you need to cut out little pieces of meat, do that. Don't waste the good parts. Just cut off the excess. There's the little pieces like that. And then just slice it. I love Chinese food. It's absolutely one of my favorite types of food. And I tell you, there is a Chinese restaurant that I love to go, but it's, you know, it's about a 2-hour drive to go there. And I find it's easier and it's a whole lot less expensive to just make this at home if you can't get to your favorite Chinese restaurant. And honestly, Chinese food is not difficult to cook. It really is not. Make sure you have a sharp knife. And that's it. Then we're going to put that in there and let that marinade overnight if possible, but even like 30 minutes makes a big difference. Now, once you get it all sliced, just lock up your baggie. Squeeze out some air if you need to. Make sure it's sealed. And then just simply coat all that meat with the mixture that you made before. And then let that set for like 30 minutes until the meat marinades, or if you can, up to overnight. Make sure you wash your hands. Anytime you handle raw meat, you need to wash your hands with soap and hot water to rinse off all those germs. And we're just going to set that to the side and let that be marinating. Now, of course, I'm just going to let it sit here because I'm only going to do about 30 minutes. But if you are going to do it overnight, you need to put it in the refrigerator. Here's a little tip for you. Many of us have these little grippy things laying around to keep your cutting board from sliding. Set your cutting board on one of those, and it gives it just a little bit of a grip, makes it safer. So I keep these in my little drawers. Now, we are going to make the marinade for the quick pickled cabbage. Now, in this bowl, I bought a bag of coleslaw mix. Now, if you want to use a head of cabbage and slice it, then go right ahead, that's fine. I've got a small saucepan here, and I'm going to leave that, or put that like over, medium-high heat. I've got some salt, a little bit of vinegar, and some honey. I need to get my honey out. Now, our mixture came up to a simmer, and it's been simmering for about a minute. The reason you want to do that is to dissolve the salt and to melt the honey. Once you're finished with that, just pour it over your cabbage, and then toss that cabbage. And I know it looks like there's not enough, but what's going to happen is that's going to cause that cabbage to leach out some water and make the sauce a little bit more. But you don't really want a saucy dish. This is just going to kind of pickle that quickly because of the cabbage now, or the vinegar. What you want to do is add some pepper, fresh ground. You've already had your salt, so you don't need any more salt. If you want to add some sesame oil, you can, the dark toasted sesame oil. I like the flavor of this, maybe half a teaspoon. It's a strong oil. You don't have to add that. I just like that flavor. And then just put this in the refrigerator, and this can totally be made up to like a day or two ahead of time. It needs to be cool when you serve it because it's almost a salad-y type dish. It's based loosely on a pickled cabbage dish from Korea called kimchi, although we're not making it spicy, which kimchi is. It's just very much a pickled cabbage, which is what that is. You could, if you wanted to, add some gochugaru or gochujang, which are Korean spicy. One's a powder and one's a paste. If you wanted to add some, you could. But for this purpose, I'm not. Now, this just needs to go in the refrigerator and just to be cool a little bit, to cool down. You can do it overnight is best. So this is one of those meals that you can totally make ahead, like marinate the meat and get the cabbage done the night before, and then the next day you can have dinner done literally in under 30 minutes. It really is that easy. Now I have a large non-stick skillet here because I don't have a wok, and honestly, I don't think you need a wok. I think, you know, a large flat surface like this to me is a little easier. I'm just going to use these same tongs. It's okay. And what I'm going to do is that's preheated like over medium-high heat. If you want to test your oil, drop a piece in there and see if it sizzles. That's not quite hot enough. See how it just kind of is laying there with no sound or sizzle. So I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. You will need a splatter guard unless you just really enjoy cleaning up greasy splatter. One that fits over there. It lets the air circulate, but it keeps the grease in somewhat, and it really, really is good. Now this dish I would serve over rice, obviously, if you have some rice cooked, or you could, although I'm going to use these in the cookies, in the Chinese section, international section, where you get the soy sauce and things like that, they sell these little cans. Let me just grab it for you so you can see what it looks like. Of these, they're called chow mein noodles. They're just little, this brand is La Choy. This little chow mein noodles, these things are great. They're great in salads, and they're great in the cookies we're gonna make. But sometimes I'll use these if I don't have any rice or I just don't feel like eating rice. You can serve this over those too if you want to, and it's really good. Now I hear my steak sizzling over here, so I know it's ready. I'm just using about 2 tablespoons or so of oil, and I'm going to put about half of this meat in here at a time, because just take it straight out of the marinade, let it drip off a little bit, and then just put about half of that meat in there and leave it alone for just a second. Cover it up, and we're just going to let it fry on that one side. Then we're going to take it out, or let it get brown on one side, kind of stir it around, take it out, and repeat with the other part of your marinade here. So we're just going to let that brown. Now all I did was brown half of that beef, cook it through, take it out, do the other half, and then I added the first half back in. And I'm just going to use a bag of, well, with the exception of that one, chopped up cauliflower flowerets, but I'm going to cut that one. That's a little big. And then just mix that in there and stir it around, and we're going to just let that broccoli steam and cook for, about 3 or 4 minutes, not long. Just going to let that go. And then we've got a sauce here that we're going to add, which is just 2 tablespoons of cornstarch mixed with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. That's all that is. And you stir that until the cornstarch all dissolves. And just set that to the side for a minute. Let's check that. It doesn't take this long at all to cook, because the broccoli isn't supposed to be just totally soft and mushy. Now you don't want it raw. And in the meantime, have you some rice cooking. Let that go for just a minute. Now we're going to add our sauce, stir that together, and then just pour that over. Now what's going to happen is that cornstarch is going to thicken up the sauce. There was a little bit of the marinade that, clung to the meat pieces, and that's okay because it's been cooking, so it's fine. And that's going to help that to thicken up and just create like a little small sauce. It's not a saucy dish. Chinese dishes, in case you didn't know it, aren't supposed to be thick sauced. Now we're just going to cover that up, let that go for about a minute, and then that will be done. I'm going to take a quick break, just kind of clean up here, and when I come back, we're going to get started on the Chinese cookies. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, now our beef and broccoli is done. Look how good that looks. Oh, so good. And I'm ready to eat it. It's ready to go. That is completely done. I did add just a little more soy sauce. I just sprinkled some over because I wanted it to be just a little more saucy. You don't have to do that if you don't want. The broccoli needs to be crisp-ish. When you don't overcook it, you see how it's still bright green? That's exactly what you want. So I'm just going to let that sit there till we're ready to eat. And I'm going to make the cookies. We've got some rice to serve that over. The first thing we're going to do is add some butterscotch chips and some chocolate chips. Stir those together. We're going to go to the microwave. And you're going to melt these in like 30-second increments. So we'll do, I know it's going to need more than that. So let's do 45 seconds to start. What's going to happen is those chocolate chips are going to melt together, and you'll need a whisk. And once that's done, I'm going to show you how to tell if they're ready to be stirred and mixed, because they won't look like it. For those of you that are beginner chocolate melters, they won't look melted. You'll only know it once you start stirring it. So we're going to kind of let those go. And this is a good, easy, quick way to melt chocolate. If you do not have a microwave, what you can do is bring a pot of water to a boil and then place a glass bowl over top of the water to act as a double boiler. Just make sure that that water doesn't touch the bottom of the bowl, and bring the water to a simmer, and then the chocolate will melt. That takes a little longer, but okay, they're not ready. I can tell by looking at them. They're not even ready to start stirring. So let's give them let's do about 45 more seconds on that microwave, and I'll talk about what else we're going to use. I've got some of those chow mein noodles that I showed you earlier, and then I just have a mixture of nuts. You could use whatever kind of nut you have. I had some walnuts on hand and some sliced almonds. If you have only one kind of nut, maybe you have pecans or peanuts, that's fine. You use whatever you want to use. You could even use, I love the dry roasted soybeans. They look like little peanuts is really what they look like. You could use those if you wanted to, although technically they're not a nut, but they are absolutely delicious and so healthy and so good for you. So those are the other two things we're going to use. Now let's check our chocolate. Now, all right, let me show you something here. Might need to go a little more, and we are going to, but you see how they still look unmelted. But when you start stirring, they'll start melting, but they're not ready yet. Come on, come out of there. If that happens, take your spoon. A whisk is the easiest thing to do this with. Although right at this moment it doesn't look like it, I promise you it is the easiest thing. So those need about probably 60 more seconds. This is not a very strong microwave. If you're using a full power microwave, 30-second increments is enough. I'm going to set those, let that go. Now let's get our rice. Let's go over here. I got a pot of rice that was cooked. This is just plain rice, just, nothing special about it. I am going to add a little bit of sesame oil because I like that in my rice. I do that at home all the time. And I actually like a little bit of soy sauce in mine, just a little bit. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. But this is how I serve it, and my kids gobble it up. They love rice like this, with just a little sesame oil and a little bit of soy sauce. And then just put that on the bottom of your serving dish. And remember your cabbage. Now you want to add your pickled cabbage. And then we're going to top that with our wonderful stir fry with our broccoli and our beef. Look how good that looks. Okay, that's not all we got. Remember our cabbage, but let's go back over here. This should be good. Yeah, that's good. Now, remember how we put our whisk in there? See how that just melted that right up? That's what you want. Get the whisk out of there because you're going to need a spoon now. I just like the whisk to help melt, not help melt, but help to stir the chocolate up. Now, we're going to add our nuts and our chow mein noodles and stir that together. Just stir it till it's all coated with the chocolate and butterscotch. If you don't have butterscotch, you could use all chocolate. You could use all butterscotch. You could use white chocolate. You could use whatever you have on hand. Stir it till everything is coated. You will need a baking dish lined with either wax paper, parchment paper, something. And then you're going to need 2 spoons. What you're going to do is you're going to take these and by the spoonful, make like little haystacks. And then we're going to put these in the refrigerator and let that chocolate harden back up and solidify. And then that's it. And that's all you need to do. We're not cooking them. We just need to let that chocolate set back up. Doesn't take long, maybe 30 minutes, if that long. Just make like little piles. And then we'll put them back in the fridge. All right, now here is our little haystacks, our little Chinese cookies. And remember our slaw? I want you to look. Now this has been in the refrigerator and it has chilled. And you see how it has kind of wilted down and much liquid is in the bottom. That salt and the vinegar pulls out the liquid from the cabbage. Now this is not, it's wilted. It's not like boiled cabbage by any means. It's just a wilted cabbage. It is absolutely delicious. I love this. And this is, for me, honestly, I could just eat the cabbage and make a meal on that. I love vegetables. So there you go. If you had some sesame seeds, you could sprinkle that over top, would be delicious. But there are some quick and easy home-style Chinese food dishes that you can make for you or your family or whoever you're serving any time of the week. You could totally do the quick pickled cabbage ahead of time, like the night before, and let it set. The longer it sets, the better it is. Marinate your steak the night before, and then when you get home and ready to cook dinner, you could have it done start to finish in 30 minutes. This is just a quick and easy beef and broccoli stir fry, our wonderful quick pickled cabbage, and our delicious little Chinese noodles, just served over some white rice, or you could serve it over the little chow mein noodles, whichever you wanted. So there's some easy recipes from Everyday Manna to you. Thank you for joining with me, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.